Hello there, and welcome to another episode of Critical Weight Theory. And today we're going to be talking about why some people are all talk and no action. And in some cases, I could be talking about myself here because, I don't always, put my money where my mouth is, as the saying goes. So it's a common frustration. Why do some people or systems talk about change but fail to act? So, I'm going to explore some psychological and social reasons behind this. And of course, one is laziness. We almost don't even need to talk about that one because it's really one of the most common ones. And well, we're not all guilty of that, but it's a very common phenomenon. I think we've all seen it. Most of us have been lazy about this or that at some point in our lives. We haven't lived up to our promises because we just don't want to make the effort or what have you. Another one is a fear of failure. Sometimes people would, avoid action because they fear the consequences of failing. So it's like, why even try? Why try? So, for instance, someone might boast about starting a business but never take the leap, fearing financial loss or public embarrassment. And that's a powerful, I guess, demotivator, if you will. It's a defense mechanism, a way of protecting themselves from perceived failures. And, another one would be, a desire for validation. They just boast that they're, you know, full of great plans or whatever, and they crave the attention or recognition they get from talking about big ideas, but they don't really want to deliver on them because it might take too much effort or what have you. Maybe it's just a dream deferred or something like that. But it's especially prevalent in social and political spaces where lofty promises can win admiration but barely translate into any meaningful action. And the need for validation often overshadows the need to deliver results. And of course, if you're not really in a results oriented situation, you don't even have to deliver the results to get the admiration. And gee, I wonder what type of scenario I could be talking about there. Hmm, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea why that could be relevant to today's world. But anyway, I also want to get into the impacts of inaction. And again, I could be talking about myself here. I'm not trying to say, I'm the most active person in this way or that. That's not really the point. I'm just sort of generalizing. So, this dynamic, whether due to fear, validation, or systemic inertia, has significant consequences. Talking without acting fosters a culture of complacency, and I think we can see that in a lot of cases, you know, locally, nationally, throughout the world. And, you know, complacency, it's almost like something that's addictive. It's a culture, if you will. So, take, for example, the discourse around racism as platforms, you know, uh, used to advocate the combating of racism. Now, because they were the people on them were so complacent, now that type of talk is winding down, obviously. And eliminating prejudice requires more than positive talk, it demands actionable steps. But as many activists note, progress often feels like it's all talk and no action. So, you know, I, in my defense, there was a protest recently about a certain clown who re entered the circus on a national level. And I would have attended that protest, perhaps, but I was not made aware of it. So it's a little bit harder to attend an event if you're not even aware that it's going on. So I'll just say that, in some cases, these things might require some communication, which can lead to inspiration and reinvigoration, you know? Of course, I could keep on rhyming that word, but I think I made the point. But consider this: discrimination and persecution persist partly because systems prioritize symbolic gestures over substantial change. For example, laws may be on paper, but that fact alone does not suffice to address undue hardship. You have to have people who actually are doing that, taking the actual steps. Legal phrasing, while promising on the surface, often fails if it is not backed by practical enforcement and all of the related mechanisms that you could find institutionally and individually, through the creation of a culture and an environment that actually takes some things seriously and actually does stuff. So, what are the lessons for today? I don't want to get too preachy here, but how do we move from words to action? How do we bridge the gap between words and action? Might be a different way to put it. So, a few ideas come to mind. Sometimes you got to face challenges head on. Facing issues is the first step, whether it's addressing fear of failure or systemic discrimination. Confrontation is key to making something actually happen. And there also has to be, at least a lot of the time, a commitment to accountability. Leaders and individuals must hold themselves accountable and be held accountable by others when they fail. Empty promises erode trust and delay progress. You also need to understand motivations, recognize why inaction happens. Is it fear, a desire for validation, etc.? By addressing the common causes, we can start to make meaningful change. So, history shows that being all talk is nothing new, whether in politics, social movements, or personal ambitions, but it also shows us that progress only happens when people move beyond rhetoric and commit to real change. And that sometimes is a painful process. Sometimes you have to, in terms of the political system, you have to move people along. You kind of have to force change by sometimes just putting on the public pressure. So, thank you for joining me in this episode of Critical Weight Theory. And if you found today's discussion insightful, maybe it's all talk and no action. Maybe that's what this episode is itself. But either way, don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and share with a buddy of yours. And as always, remember, change starts with action. So until next time, I'm Wade. Keep questioning, keep learning, and keep acting when you can, okay? So there we go. Have a good one.